The meeting of the consoles has begun. Console F, what game do you choose for Game of the Year?
I'll go with Mario Brothers 3.
How about you, S?
Clearly it's going to be Live Alive.
G?
You're both still living in the past. I'm still waiting for Mario 128.
How about you, N?
I love the strategy of triangle strategy, just like Ogre Battle 64.
And W and U?
We love Xenoblade!
All compelling picks, but in the end, Xenoblade 3 is the Game of the Year for 2022. Hey, FeralInferno here, and it is our 2022 Game of the Year. And what a year it's been. 3 really great contenders for our 2022 Game of the Year. If you saw our preview leading up to this, you saw that our games were Live Alive, Triangle Strategy, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And as you can tell from the title, obviously our 2022 Game of the Year is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Before we talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, though, let's just talk about our runner-ups just for a minute, because they are really good games and they deserve their due. And our first runner-up here is Triangle Strategy. Really great strategy game from Square Enix, and it's in the style of the Octopath HD 2D graphics. Really enjoyed this so far. I haven't gotten through the entire game. It is a long experience, and it gets quite difficult in some of the battles. But I've really been enjoying this. It does fall short a little bit in originality. It kind of feels like you're playing a Final Fantasy Tactics version of Game of Thrones, if you will. The story is a little reminiscent of that, and some of the characters and some of the themes as well. I saw a lot of similarities to that, as well as some similarities to some of the recent Fire Emblem stories as well. So it lacks a few points on originality, but still, really great experience and highly recommend it. I had a great time with Triangle Strategy. Another runner-up was Live Alive. We actually did a live stream for Live Alive. Really enjoyed Live Alive. This was a old RPG that didn't make it out to North America from the Super Nintendo days, and again, redone in the HD 2D graphic style of Octopath Traveler. Really love that style, and they made some quality of life improvements to the game as well. Haven't gotten through this entire game either, but I've played enough of it to know where it kind of lands in the Game of the Year. But really enjoyed Live Alive. Good classic JRPG with a little bit of a twist to the battle formula. Really enjoyed that. And if you've seen our live stream and you're curious about the game, check that out. It gives you a little bit of a taste of what to expect. And it's kind of a precursor to the Octopath Traveler series. Granted, about 20 years prior, but still, great game. But we're here for the star of the show. That's Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And anybody who knows FeralInferno and you've watched the channel throughout the year, you probably saw this coming, right? You knew it was going to be Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I mean, I pretty much knew it was going to be Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But you never know. I've been let down by games I've been really hyped for in the past. But definitely, this game lived up to the hype. Does it fall short in a few areas? Absolutely. There are some disappointments with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and maybe we just get some of those out of the way right now. The story is a little bit disjointed at times. Sometimes you're kind of rushing through the story, and sometimes you're not really getting anywhere in the story. And other times in the story, it's just kind of jumping around, and some of the plot points aren't fully explored. Without any spoilers, no spoilers. There is a point where they're trying to explore a romance in the game between some characters, and they hint at it, and they heavily hint at it, and then it goes nowhere. Like, not like, oh hey, not nowhere, like like it's not like oh someone's not interested. It's just that no, it just like they forgot about it. So there are a few things with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It feels like as much content as there is in the game, that maybe some of the story elements were just rushed a little bit with everything that was going on in the game. But still a great story, great character development. I think they just bit off a little bit more than they can chew. There's a lot of side quests in the game that are going to keep you very busy, and maybe what they should have done was cut down on some of the time they spent on putting all these side quests in the game, and maybe put some more time into the characters and the story to make sure it was completely fleshed out and there were any little plot holes being left there. But minor. It's not a story breaker, if you will. Another point where I think it falls short, and I may not be in the majority on this, but the battle system. The battle system is interesting. You have at any one time 7 characters in your party at one time in a battle. It's the maximum amount you can have fighting alongside of you, and it's hectic, and there's a lot of things going on. Sometimes it feels like you're watching maybe like a replay of a football game. You're seeing all these different lines all over the screen, trying to tell you like, hey, if you see a blue line, it's like, hey, you're being that character's being targeted, but it's okay because they're a defensive character. But if you see a red line, then then that character is being targeted, and that character is an attacker or a healer, and they're not a defender, and they're in risk of getting hurt. So there's all these different things going on the screen. There's a lot of enemies. There's big enemies. And it's at times you can't really see what's going on, and you have to, despite all the hecticness of it, there are certain times you have to time press some of your buttons to get the attack off right, to get it off properly, and you can't see, or the camera is zoomed out too much. So there are some problems with the battle system in terms of accessibility. That was one of my gripes with Xenoblade Chronicles 3's battle system. I still had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed it. The chain attack system is terrific. You can break it too. There are some really good characters with the hero characters you get in the game that can really break that. You can pretty much beat almost any boss if there's a specific hero character, the defender class. I won't say who. But if you get that hero character and you realize what they can do and you utilize them properly through the chain attack, you can get to millions of points of damage in a chain attack. They're that good. As long as you know how to keep that chain going and then get it for maximum damage output. So yeah, some really cool things with the battle system, but a little too hectic. It's a little bit of a departure from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you had 3 characters, right? You had 3 characters, but they were being backed up by their blades, and I felt a little bit more manageable in the battle system. Not bad in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, not bad, but just a little bit, they did a little bit too much with the battle system. A little bit too much going on, at least from my perspective. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think about the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 battle system if you've played it. And now for some of the positives. There are a lot of positives with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is why it's the game of the year. It's a terrific game. I really fell in love with the story and the characters. It took a little while to get going with the story. So you definitely stick with it. It's a little bit slow to start. But man, once you really get into the story, and by the time you get to the ending, especially with me, I spent 250 something hours on Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and you really get attached to these characters over time. It's like you kind of get to know them. You spend so much time with them. There's so much character development with them that it's tough. You're kind of, when the game ends, you kind of want it to be done with, right? Because you spent so much time. It's time to play another game, but at the same time, it's kind of almost sad because you know that your time with these characters has come to an end. And that was kind of how it felt with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as well, because we spent a lot of time on that game. But the character development in the game is terrific. They have a lot of different points that they go to in the story, and they can definitely throw you for a loop a little bit with some plot twists. I enjoyed the story quite a bit. Another really good thing I liked about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was the progression of building your character's experience and levels and classes. They ditched the blade system from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, you have a more class-based system similar to the thing that I felt it equated to was Final Fantasy V. If anybody's played Final Fantasy V, you know that you have all the different classes in there, where you can pick like, hey, you've got more of a warrior class, a little bit more of a spellcaster class, those types of things. But there's 3 main classes in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. You got your attacker, your healer, and your defender. And any of the characters can be any one of those. And I really like that about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Because you can kind of mix and match your characters to be how you want. You can also gain skills and abilities from those other classes that you can mix and match with other classes to kind of build like your ultimate party, right? So that they did a really good job with that. Sometimes that can be a little tedious. Bravely Default kind of comes to mind a little bit. I love Bravely Default, but building your characters in Bravely Default can be just a little bit tedious. Whereas in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, they did a really nice job with it. The only downfall to that system was that if you were fighting monsters that were lower level than you, it was tough to gain the new class that you get, because only one character can get the class initially. And then when you use that class or use a character with that class in your party, other characters, they build up points to get that class, to learn the class. So you have to build up the points to learn the class, and then after you learn the class, you have to equip the class to get all those other abilities, to learn those abilities, right, as you use it. But there was one little thing that was broken in the game, and then they should probably patch that out at some point, is that it's like, hey, so let's just say you get a new hero character, and they have, let's call it the Fencer class, right? But you're in an area where you're over leveled. The monsters are level, let's say 15, but you're level 18. You're not going to be able to get that class. It won't let you. You'll see there's a little gauge, a character gauge. It's a little silhouette of the character in the menu, and it fills up gradually. It will not fill up. You'll have to go find a place with higher level monsters in order to get that class filled up. And that can be a little bit difficult because, depending on where you are in the game, they might not be easily accessible. Or you might not be able to beat those monsters, so you can be stuck not being able to learn a class for a little bit. They do have something in the New Game Plus. I haven't tried it yet, but I did see something saying where you can decrease your levels, which is great. So one pro tip I will tell you, because after you beat the game, who cares? But during the game, a pro tip that I learned, thankfully, like midway through, I would say, was that you get bonus experience points, whether you're completing side quests or whatever. You'll get these bonus experience points, and when you go to a campsite, you can apply those experience points to get extra level ups. Don't do it. Don't do it unless you're desperate for levels. Hang on to those experience points. You're not going to need them, especially if you're doing all the side quests. Because if you get over leveled, you're not going to be able to learn these new classes. You're not going to be able to gain those new classes for all the characters. And that can really hamper you because some of those abilities you can learn are really good. For example, there's an ability that's kind of like haste, if you will, and puts a circle on the battlefield, and anybody in that circle will have their abilities recharge faster, so you can use all your different abilities faster, right? Because the abilities take time, or you have to do attacks regular attacks to get your special abilities back. So having like a bunch of characters with that haste type of ability on, man, you can just floor some of these monsters, and it gets you to your chain attack faster as well. And some of you who haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 3 have no idea what I'm talking about, but if you played it, you should know what I'm talking about. Like, it's getting to your chain attack is key for especially those big battles. There's times when you get to your chain attack, you're like, wow, like I was about to lose a bunch of characters, but I'm good now. I've got my chain attack, and I know what I'm doing, and I know I can get 1,000,000 points of damage on this character. So definitely keep that in mind. When you get those bonus experience points, don't apply them unless you get to a point where you're like, hey, I just can't get past this part. Then use those bonus experience points. Otherwise, when you go to the campfire, do not do not use those experience points because it will hinder your ability to gain the classes. And if you're a completionist like me, you're going to want all your characters to have all the classes. And that's a little pro tip from FeralInferno. Another really cool feature to this game, and from talking to a few people, I know they really enjoyed it as well, was the interlink system. And we won't go too much into that because it goes into the story, so I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want to spoil that for anybody. But it's an Ouroboros form. It's almost like you get like a mech form, almost, if you will. And it's really cool. It gives you different abilities, and there's a timer to it. I really enjoyed that being added to the game. It kind of felt like a throwback to the old Xenogears games, if you will. And that's the great thing about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was that they really took a lot from all of the past Xeno games. You can, especially Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, it really is an amalgamation of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. You can play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 without playing 2 and 1, but you will appreciate 3 more, especially as you get further in the game, because there's definitely some hints to 1 and 2 that you'll want to know. And in a way, some of the things could be a little spoilerish if you play 3 first for 1 and 2, especially 2. So just keep that in mind. If you haven't played the other ones yet and you're really interested in the series, I'd say start from the beginning. Start with 1, go to 2, and then go to 3. After finishing the game, I kind of realize now it's meant to be a trilogy. I didn't realize that before with 1 and 2, and even in the beginning of 3, but now I realize, hey, it really does flow, which is amazing. An amazing job they did telling the story the way they did, and getting to the point of realization of what everything meant in the series. So it was really cool to see all the different connections to a lot of the Xeno games, even going back to the old Xenogears game on the original PlayStation. So yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, our game of the year. We have more Xenoblade 3 content coming your way. If you've seen before on the channel, we've had a few videos. We were able to secure the special edition. We did a quick unboxing of the special edition. I'll post that in the description box in case you're interested in seeing that. It's a really quick video, but we only glanced at the cover and the back cover of the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Special Edition art book. Veterans of the channel know I go through these art books page by page. We'll be going through the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Special Edition art book in a video coming out very soon within the next week or two. So stay tuned to that, and thank you so much for joining us for our 2022 Game of the Year video. Congratulations to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the true 2022 Game of the Year.